Our next guest, Franklin Raff, is Senior Executive Producer for Radio America in Washington, D.C., the network home of over 20 independently produced conservative talk, news, and specialty shows. He also serves as executive producer of The G. Gordon Liddy Show, which can be heard on approximately 200 radio stations nationwide on Sirius and XM satellite radio. As a politically conservative, pro-Israel activist, he works closely with WorldNet Daily's Jerusalem Bureau and with the Bet El correspondents for Arutz Sheva, Israel National News, to bring critical news from Israel to national prominence in the United States and Canada. Would you please join me in welcoming Mr. Franklin Raff?
When I returned from the place that was called Gush Katif, from the disengagement in Gaza, I returned with truly vivid memories of IDF soldiers dragging their Jewish brothers and sisters out of their homes, locking them up in the dust. I thought for a moment of the Jüdische Ghetto Polizei, the infamous Jewish ghetto police. And then perversely it seemed, I saw them praying together, weeping openly together, forced soldier and forced refugee, as Qassam rockets fell on our retreat. Qassam rockets launched by Arabs and aimed at us as we went through the process of giving them houses and greenhouses and villages, farms and cooperatives, and endless fields, green fields, fields my distant ancestors first made arable, which I saw for the first time on that last day, and which my children will never see. I am a Southerner by birth, by the grace of God, as we say. I am a Virginian, and I grew up on a farm. Wherever I travel in the world, I know the smell that earth has when it is blessed by God and by the free hands of men who love God. That last evening, as we gathered in a field in Neve Dekalim in Gaza to make a minyan for evening prayer, before the final evacuation of the Jews, I was struck by the smell. The same smell I remember from our farm when I was a boy, nitrogen and mud and life and freedom. And perhaps also you know this smell. I have been to Iraq, to the farms along the Euphrates River, where the men drink tea in the shade, while sweaty, stooped-over women work the fields, covered head to toe in black hajibs. And the soil there smells only of salt. When I returned from what was called Gush Katif, from the smell, which in the days to follow became the smell of bulldozer, diesel exhaust, and high explosives, which is also a very unmistakable smell, I understood in a visceral way the tragedy of Land for Peace. I understood fully, for the first time in my life, the fable about the scorpion and the frog, which had baffled me as a child. Do you know why this fable confuses children? It is because they do not yet believe in evil. You remember the frog in the pot of water as it starts to boil. If the path to destruction is taken in slow and incremental steps, the frog will make minimal protestations, if any, before he takes his final breath. Evil exists. The beast, which has many disguises, the seductive thief of individual liberty, the defiler of women and children, the disarmer of private citizens, the destroyer of God's children, first by gently disposing of their freedoms, then quickly erasing their bodies and their memory and their culture and the memory of their God, the annihilator of God's message and God's children, Christian and Jew alike, does exist. So, who will defend Israel? Not when it is too late. Not when its ruins become one more historical monument to the folly of appeasement. But now, who will defend Israel? We will. The Jews are no longer alone. I am blessed to live in a time in which we love each other, and I will pray that it will be so until the final days. Today, we defend Masada. Our leaders in Washington may beg us to surrender. In Jerusalem, they may beg us to surrender. They will beg us to surrender, and they will throw Nobel Peace Prizes around like Judas's silver coins. But we will not surrender to the jihad which openly promises Sharia law, the overthrow of the United States and the Constitution, the universal establishment of the caliphate, and the enslavement of women, and we so-called infidels. We will not surrender 1 inch of our country, not 1 inch of Dearborn, Michigan, not 1 inch of my native Virginia, and not another inch of Israel and Judea and Samaria. Never will we surrender. The word ruach is Hebrew for spirit, or the Spirit of God. It is a cognate of reach, which is the wind and the smell. We are tied to our land, but what we stand to accomplish by defending it has everything to do with spiritual territory. This we will defend successfully. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
Thank you, Franklin.